Better mute us all.
Who knows which famous person's Yortzeit is today, to whom we will dedicate this shiur? Anybody know whose Yortzeit? Famous person's Yortzeit today?
Is it Rabbi Cook? Rabbi Cook?
No, it's not Rabbi Cook. Not Rabbi
What's his
Cook.
name? Sachs?
Not Rabbi Sachs, no, that was in November. I'll give you a clue. His name is Eliyahu ben Shaul HaKohen. Does that mean anything to any of you? It should do. Eliyahu ben Shaul HaKohen, otherwise known as Kamel Amin Chafbet. Does that mean anything to you? Yes, Marcel, correct. Marcel's mouthing at us because he's muted. Eli Cohen, the Israeli spy, was hanged today. The English equivalent of the 18th of May, 1965. Today is his Yortzeit. A man who gave his life for Am Yisrael, for Eretz Yisrael. And it is fitting that we dedicate this shiur to the memory of Eli Cohen, Yehi Zichro Baruch. Those of you who are not familiar with the story of Eli Cohen, you can read about it on Google, you can watch it on Netflix, and there was also a film made in 1967, I think, or maybe 87, called The Impossible Spy. That was 1987, The Impossible Spy, and Netflix last year did a mini-series called The Spy about Eli Cohen, a man who, without whom we may not have been so successful in the Six-Day War, a man to whom we owe a great deal, and we dedicate this learning to the memory of Eliyahu ben Shaul HaKohen. Okay, into the Gemarah. We are in Gemarah Sanhedrin. You'll all be pleased to know, by the way, that my computer woes of last week have almost been sorted. It's still not finished syncing. It's now been syncing for about 17 days, but I'm down to the last 1,000 files out of 500,000. So I'm almost there. And you'll all be pleased to know that my Gemarah Sanhedrin is now been returned to its rightful place. So I now have 2 copies because David Marks kindly sent me one last week. But I knew you'd all be pleased to know that my computer woes are almost over. It has not been a pleasant experience. But there we go. Here we are in Sanhedrin. There's the Gemarah on the screen. Let me remind you of the case that we are dealing with, because this is a classic piece of Gemarah. This is what Gemarah is all about, taking a piece, an opinion, and as we've said before, putting it through the mangle and squeezing every possible thing that we can out of it, and trying to get agreement amongst the rabbis. So the case is this. The Mishnah says, right back at the beginning, that a case of Motzi Shem Ra, the defamer, the man who accuses his wife, his new wife, of not being a virgin on their wedding night, that case of a defamer is heard by 3 judges. That was the opinion of Rebbe Meir. The Chachamim, the sages, disagreed and said that that case was heard by 23 judges. And then we had 2 gentlemen by the name of Ulla and Rava who decided that they would pick apart these 2 opinions and try and delve into it and see what it was that they were disagreeing on. Ulla was the one who said that the case the thing they disagreed about was gossip, whether it was, we needed to worry that if we started off with 3 judges, somebody may come along and say, actually, I can give you testimony that this woman committed adultery, and it then turns into a capital case, and therefore we need 23 judges. So according to Ullah, the sages, the Chachamim, say just in case there should be such gossip, we'll start with 23 in the first place. Rebbe Meir says we don't need to worry about such a case. And he says we deal with it with 3 judges because it's just a monetary case. That was Ullah's opinion. Rava's opinion was that they were disagreeing about the honor of the judges, that it wouldn't be good if we had a situation where we started with 23 judges and then it turned out only to be a monetary case, and we got rid of those 23 and brought 3 other judges, because that would look bad on the judges we dismissed, and also vice versa. So the question is, are we worried about gossip and new witnesses coming forward, according to Ullah, or are we worried about the kavod of the judges, that it won't look like they've been dismissed because they weren't capable? That's the opinion of Rava. And then we went and we dug down another layer, and we said, no, actually, they all agree. What we try and do in the Gemarah is get everybody to agree about everything. And we come up with convoluted cases so that we can say, yes, that's great, we all agree now. So we started off by saying, no, we all agree that they don't worry about gossip. And we brought a case that would satisfy that. And then we brought a case and said, no, we all agree, i.e. Ullah and Rava agree about the honor of the judges. And we brought a case about that. And now we're going to do a third example. Now, we're over here. Abaye Amar. Abaye says, the dispute between Rabbi Meir and the rabbis, i.e. do we start with 3 or do we start with 23, can be explained in a third way. Now, earlier we said the first one was everybody agreed about gossip. The second case was everybody agreed about kavod. The third case, as you might have guessed, is that everybody agrees about everything. And here we go. Abaye said, Amar Abaye, de kule alma, according to everybody, chayshinan lalaz. We are worried about the rumors. We are worried that the judges will need to consider witness evidence. Umishum kvodon shel rishonim. And we're also concerned about the honor of the first lot of judges. So in other words, according to Abaye, both Ullah and Rava are agreed. They're agreed that we worry about both of these things. So what is it that they disagree on? So this is what they disagree on. We are narrowing down the case that we're dealing with here, getting narrower and narrower and narrower as we go. It's almost like a sort of an arrowhead. And as we get, eventually we'll get to the point of the arrowhead where the subject is exhausted. So he says, Hocha b'may askinon. That's a famous expression which we've already had before. This Hacha here, b'may askinon. Remember, I told you what Esek was, a business. Askinon is what we are involved in here. Hacha b'may askinon. This is the case that we're dealing with. In effect, that's what it means. Kagon. In the example, da'atru ba stam. Da'atru ba stam. What does stam mean?
Experts.
Anyone know what stam?
Is it experts or very professional, like a Stam sofa?
Okay. I knew somebody was going to say sofa stam. Very
Sofa
good,
stam.
Johnny. It's very good. It's wrong, but I knew somebody would say that because if you look at sofa stam, right? If you look at sofa stam, what is a sofa stam? A sofa stam is somebody who writes mezuzot and Sifrei Torah and tefillin And if you look and you see Chaim Yankel, Sofer Stam, you will see a chupchik. Anybody know what a chupchik is?
Apostrophe.
Yes, that's right. Two little, well, we would call them like inverted commas. Yeah. In between the taf and the mem of Sofer Stam. A Sofer Stam, a Sofer is a scribe, and those two little inverted commas, the chupchik, indicates that that word stam is short for something. It's not the word stam, it's short for something. It's what we call rashi tevot. It's the first letters. And what do you think that stam stands for in Sofer Stam?
Torah.
Yes, that's the
one.
taf, Torah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. No, sorry, the taf is not Torah, but go on, have another go. Have another go.
To fill in. To fill in.
To fill in. That's right. What does the mem stand for?
Mezuzot.
Mezuzah.
Mezuzot. And what does the samach stand for?
Sefer Torah.
Yeah.
Sefer Torah. So a Sofer Stam is a scribe of a Sefer Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzot. So Sofer Stam. Okay. So the word Stam in Sofer Stam is not a word at all. It's short for Sifrei Torah, Tefillin, Mezuzot. Okay. Yep. Which is absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about here, except we've got the word here, Stam, and I thought that would be interesting for you to know what a Sofer Stam was. By the way, I only found out what Stam stood for in Sofer Stam fairly recently. So it's not something. Yeah, it's not something which is all that obvious unless you think about it. And once you think about it, it is pretty obvious. So, what does the word stam mean? You'll hear it all the time on the streets. You also hear it all the time in yeshivot. It's in yeshivish talk.
They use it
meaningless.
Okay.
Meaningless. Okay, yeah, let me expand on that, Howard. You're a bit quiet.
Nearly.
Meaningless rubbish. It's a non-entity. It's not important. Unimportant.
Yes. Yeah, that's the idea. If you say to somebody, why did you do that? They may just say, Stam. I did it, Stam. Just because. Just did it. Because, for no particular reason. For no particular reason. It implies a lack of specificity.
That's good.
Okay, so you do something, Stam. I just did it for, I don't know really. I just Stam. So if I say to you, are you going for a? You say to me, I'm going for a walk. I say, are you going for anything specific? You say, no, I'm just going for a walk, Stam. Just for no specific reason. Okay, so that's what the word stam means, and you'll hear it on the streets all the time. It's a sort of one of those expressions which are sort of meaningless, really, but you hear it a lot. But it indicates a lack of specificity, and that's what it means here. So our case is kagon for the example de atru ba. This is, remember, a case where there is an accusation of adultery. And we said last week that in order for somebody to be found guilty of adultery, there has to be witnesses. And those witnesses have to view the act themselves, not just hear about it or have circumstantial evidence. They have to have visual evidence. They have to say, I saw it. And they also have to do what? We said this last time.
Give a warning.
Give a warning. Correct, Johnny. They give a warning. And that warning in Hebrew is called hatra'ah. Hey, taf, reish, aleph, hey. Hatra'ah. Warning. That's what this word is. Da'atru ba. They warned her. They warned her. Okay. Stam. in a way that lacked specificity. In other words, what they said was, if you do this act, you will be subject to the death penalty. But they did not specify which type of death penalty she would be liable for. How many different types of execution are there according to Jewish law? Correct, Leon, 4. Who can tell me, without looking in the art scroll, who can tell me the 4 methods of execution? Marcel.
Yes. Stoning.
Yes, stoning.
And burning.
Sorry, burning.
And I don't know.
Hanging.
There's the throwing off the building, but that's part of stoning, I think.
So you've got stoning. What else did you say? Burning.
Burning. Strangulation.
Strangulation. And the last one?
Well, I said throwing off the building, but that's, I think that's part of stoning.
Yeah, that's part of the process, but it's not the actual thing. There's one missing.
Throwing off the cliff.
ISIS do it.
Throwing off the cliff.
Capitation.
Beheading.
Decapitation. That's right. Decapitation. Beheading. Beheading. So it is. Those are the 4 methods of execution. Now, what is the method of execution for adultery?
In Jewish law, those are the 4 methods of execution.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Correct. In Hebrew, there is skila, which is stoning, hereg, which is decapitation, sreifa, which is burning, and chenek, which is strangulation. So 4 types. Now, what is the method of execution for adultery?
Stoning.
Why'd you say that?
Give her a chance to maybe. I know it's execution, so she won't make her. No.
Well, you had a 1 in 4 chance, and it isn't that.
No.
Yes, Howard.
Strangulation.
It is indeed strangulation. And how did you know that?
I don't know. At some point I came across it.
Okay. All right. You're right. Now, if you lot stick with me long enough, you will learn that it is strangulation, because if we have a look at Sanhedrin, Gemarah Sanhedrin, which is what we are learning on page 52b, which is about 650%. So we've been doing 6 times 1.5. We ought to get there in about 10 years' time at this rate. This is what you'll see. Here's a sneak preview of what we'll get to in 10 years' time, please God. Sanhedrin 52b. There is a whole discussion about this woman, Imrata Bat Taleh, who was a daughter of a Kohen, and she committed adultery. You can see it over here on the screen. And this Rav Chama Bar Tovia burned her. And that wasn't the right thing to do. That wasn't the right thing to do. The Mishnah tells us that the Gemara tells us that the punishment for adultery is not sreifa, burning. It is strangulation. It is chenek, strangulation. So that's what's in the Gemarah in 52b. That is a whole discussion over here about how people are executed, and it is any death sentence in the Torah which is not specifically specified. So it's Stam is strangulation.
So
if
who
we go
did
back
it?
to our-
Who actually did the strangulation? What was the
There was a whole process of how it was done.
one person do it?
And there was an executioner appointed in the same way as in the UK until when was the death penalty abolished?
Was that a
1960, early
volunteer?
60s, I think.
It was
Were they
60.
volunteers?
No, there was a paid job. It was a paid job. The executioner. Who does it in the States, Nachum?
I don't know. It's
Well, I think
not
you'll
all this-
find that the state employs a state executioner.
He lived in Whitefield, the one in England.
Yeah.
He lived in
Pierpoint.
Whitefield, Johnny.
Albert Pierpoint.
Pierpoint his name.
Pierpoint, yeah, that's right, Pierpoint.
I think it was.
Yeah,
The
it's
pub,
not a
the
great-
pub at the junction there, opposite
Yeah.
the golf club.
Yeah, correct.
It's not a great job. But anyway, that is the.
Excuse
that
me.
is
It was in 1945. He went to Nuremberg. He was kept very busy.
Yes. Did he? He was okay. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
do you know
it
what the
would be.
method was of strangulation? What they actually did?
I think they wrapped a cloth around the neck, and one pulled one way, one pulled the other.
It is detailed in Gemarah Sanhedrin. I'm not exactly sure which page it's on.
In about 15 years' time, Johnny, we'll get to the payrec, which describes all of the methods of execution.
Yeah, it's
in
later on. It's later on in Sanhedrin.
And it's in very, very gory detail.
Yeah, so if you're interested, Nachum, you can just go ahead and.
No, I'm not. I'm not interested. I was just concerned with the methodology. I mean, we're a kind, merciful people, and this seems to me.
Indeed, we are.
Yeah, and
So
I
when
just
was the
wondered
last-
how they found somebody and how they did what it was. I
You'll
mean, how
find
did
that when we actually get there, a lot of care is taken about how it's done, and to do it in a most humane way. So yeah, let's. So we'll put that on one side for about 15 years, and we'll come back to our Gemarah now. Otherwise, we'll never get there. Here we go. So let's go back into our Gemarah. So in our situation here, the case that we're dealing with is where this alleged adulterer or adulteress, I suppose, to be accurate, is warned, but is only warned Stam. She's warned that she'll get the death penalty, but she's not specifically warned that she's going to be given the death penalty by strangulation. So that's the case. Now let's have a look at the opinions on that case. Howard, are you wanting to jump in there, say something?
I wanted to ask, when was the last execution pursuant to Jewish law?
Eichmann, 1962.
Okay. All right. Apart from that, that was Israeli law.
Apart from that, I suspect it must have been when there was a Sanhedrin. So probably a couple of thousand years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And the last one in Britain was 1964.
64 was it that he was executed?
In the UK. The last one in the UK.
Oh, in the UK. Yeah. Who was the last one? Was it Hanratty?
I think so.
Was it James Hanratty?
Yes.
Yeah. Don't know why I know that. It's one of those facts that I just know Stam for no apparent reason. Okay.
The Sanhedrin only gave a death penalty, I think you told us, very, very rarely, once every.
Yes, a Sanhedrin that gave a death penalty once in 70 years,
70 years,
was considered to be a cruel Sanhedrin. Okay, so let's have a look at the opinions on this case. V'hai Tana, who the Tanya. So this Tana is the one who is in agreement with a Braita. The Tanya, we have learnt in a different Braita. Usha'ar kol chayavei mitot shebetorah ein memitin otam ella. There's an ein ella sentence. Remember, we had that right at the beginning. Ein ella means only. So the Braita says all the other people who are chayav mita, that means they are liable for the death penalty in the Torah, they are not executed, or they are only executed in the following situation. I'll come back to in a minute why it says all the other, or sha'ar, all the other ones, and who it's referring to, who it doesn't apply, this doesn't apply. So I'll come back to that in a minute. So basically, apart from one case, all the others in the Torah, you have to have the following things in order to carry out the death sentence. Eidah. What's an eidah? A congregation. A congregation is an eidah, okay? Eidot HaMizrach means the people, the congregation from the east, the Sephardim. Eidah is a congregation. Now, who are we talking about here? Who is this eidah that we need for our death penalty to be carried out?
Witnesses.
10 judges. 10 judges.
Okay, well, it can't be witnesses, Michael, because look at the next word. Adim.
Is it
The
10
next word
judges?
is Adim. Judges, correct, Johnny. Eidah refers to the congregation of judges. We need, and how many judges do we need for a capital case? 23. 23. We all know that. So the Gemarah now, this Braita is telling us that we need 3 things to be able to carry out the death sentence. An Eidah, that's 23 judges. Eidim, which are witnesses. Now, I don't know if you can see that there is a very similarity between those 2 words, Eidah and Eidim. Okay, Eidah is a congregation, Eidim are witnesses. And the connection, of course, is obvious. The Eidah here we're talking about are judges. It's a combined together. An Eidah is a congregation, which is somebody that combines together. Eidim are witnesses, and they, of course, in Jewish law, have to be combined together. One witness is not sufficient in Jewish law. You have to have 2 kosher witnesses. And the third thing we need, there's that word, hatra'ah, warning. Same word over as we had over here. Can you see? Atru ba, Stam. She was warned non-specifically. Atru is warning. So over here, we need 23 judges, we need witnesses, and we need a warning. Va'ad sheyodi'uhu shehu chayav mita bebeit din. And the court cannot carry out its verdict unless the accused had been informed. Can you see the word yodea? Ani yodea, I know. Can you see that word yodea in the middle of there? Yod dalet ayin. Sheyodi'uhu, until he has been informed. Shehu chayav mita bebeit din. So the warning has to be that you are, if you do this act, you will be liable for the death penalty. Now, here's where we have the difference of opinion. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, what does that mean, that brighter? Ad sheyeduhu. It means ad sheyodiuhu be'eze mita hu ne'erag. He has to be informed which be'eze. Yeah, eza means which death penalty he will be killed by. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, a warning which is a stam warning, a warning lacking specificity, getting quite good at that word now, is not good enough. According to Rabbi Yehuda, there has to be a specific warning. As Rav Steinsaltz says here, according to the opinion of Abaye, that's who we said has proposed this whole case, the dispute in the Mishnah involves a case in which it was known that the witnesses forewarned the woman, but they did not specify the specific death penalty she would be liable to receive. In this case, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir holds that there can be no death penalty. And if there is no death penalty, then we don't need 23 judges. It only becomes a monetary case because it can't possibly be a capital case because it's agreed that the witnesses did not warn the woman appropriately. And so if it's no longer a possibility to be a capital case, it remains a monetary case, and therefore the case may be tried by 3 judges. Rabbi Meir is the one who says that we start with 3 judges. This case is dealt with by 3 judges because he agrees with Rabbi Yehuda that you have to specify the method of death penalty, and if you don't, you can't carry that out in accordance with this brighter, and if you can't carry it out, it can't be a capital case, and therefore it's a monetary case, and therefore it's only 3.
Johnny, why is it important for her to know how she's going to be killed?
Well, it's not a proper warning otherwise. What if she has what if she has a specific fear, a phobia about strangulation? And it could be, but she's not all that bothered about burning or stoning or decapitating, but she really doesn't want to be strangled. Now, if you warn her and say, do you know you might be you will be strangled if you do this act, well, then she might not do it. And so therefore, if you haven't given her the full warning, then you haven't given her the full opportunity to reconsider her actions and not do the act that she's about to do. Okay. So it's another example of how the Torah and the Torah Shebaal Peh goes out of its way to try and protect the accused, if you like, and try and get the accused off, which is why a Bet Din, a Sanhedrin, which gave out a death sentence more than once in 70 years, was considered cruel, because there are so many get-out clauses, and this is one of them. They didn't give her a proper warning, then you can't carry out the death sentence. Not to say that she won't get a punishment, but you can't carry out the death sentence. Yes, Leon?
The point, excuse me, the point that Johnny's just made has bothered me for a while I've been reading this. What difference does it make how she's going to die to the person, himself or herself? What difference does it make?
It doesn't make any difference.
If she knows all the facts, there may be something in there that would stop her from doing it. She may have an absolute phobia of being strangled. There are people, you know, Leon, I've seen people in my career who've got vomiting phobias, right? They're absolutely phobic about vomiting. If they think that something might make them vomit, they would absolutely run a mile because that feeling, it's not rational. So it could be that this woman's got an irrational fear of one or other method of death, and it might stop her doing it if she knew that that's what it was. That's what the warning is all about. The warning is to try and give her an opportunity to step back from the act. Now, what the Gemarah is trying to do, and what the halacha is trying to do, is to give absolutely every possible opportunity to the perpetrator or the proposed perpetrator of this act to stop themselves from doing it. And the Gemarah is saying that it might make a difference. You're right. 999 times out of 1,000 don't make no difference. I don't care how you kill me. You kill me, you kill me. But it might make a difference, and therefore we give them the opportunity to know the full facts, and therefore they need to have that specific warning. David.
Yeah, when we get in 15 years' time to this Mishnah, Abba Mitot Bet Din, the Mishnah there discusses, there's a machlokas Tanoim, we talk about the severity of the 4 different types. Therefore, the person needs to be warned as to what is the most severe punishment. May not be physically the most severe punishment, but psychologically the most severe. So the list that we have goes according to Skila, Sreifa, Chereg, and Chenek. And Rabbi Shimon there in the Mishnah reverses the order between Skila and Sreifa.
Okay, so what David is basically saying is really a corollary of what I was saying, and that is that the person who is being warned needs to have a full understanding of what they're in for. If there was a choice, let's say a person say, actually, I don't mind dying, but I don't want to be tortured. So say, okay, well, the warning is that before you're put to death, you're going to be tortured. But they might not do it. So you have to give them the full warning. So that's what this is about. Yes, Nachum.
I'm curious about the witnesses. Do these witnesses actually have to be together, or can one witness be that, seeing it at one point and another witness? I mean, are they together in this observation of what's going on? Do you know?
No, they don't need to be stood there together. So if let's say you had you could have one person viewing it from the east and another person viewing it from the west.
Okay.
But they do have to view it with their own eyes.
And can the defendant say they're lying? They didn't see me. They're not telling you the truth.
Well, yes, they can, and the judge. It's the judge's job to investigate the witnesses. That's the judge's job. It's a bit like the European continental system, where the judge does the investigating rather than the British system, where the judge listens to somebody else cross-examine and get the evidence out of the witness. But it's the judge's job to decide whether those witnesses are telling the truth or not. Okay, David, did you want to say something?
Yes, so can I just add something as well? I think Nachum asked before who performed the executions. It wasn't an executioner, it was the witnesses themselves, according to the Mishnah.
They start the process. They start the process.
And they finish the process as well. So, for example, in the case of stoning, it would be the witnesses who push the guy, who push the accused off the cliff. And if he survives the fall, then it's the witnesses who place large stones on him.
And the strangulation, the same. One witness pulls one way and one pulls the other.
2 witnesses pull either side of the cord.
But if you have a look in the detail there, you'll see that if the witnesses cannot or will not do that, then the court does appoint somebody in their place, because you have a situation where your witnesses may not be capable of doing such a thing. What if you have a witness with no arms? How are they going to pull how are they going to pull the thing? How are they going to push him off? What if he's paralyzed from the neck down? So then what happens? It doesn't get the verdict doesn't get carried out. No, I think you'll find that the court will, and in fact, in practice, what happened was that the witnesses didn't do it, because the witnesses nearly always, you wouldn't want to do it, would you? Who wants to do that job? So the witnesses almost always found an excuse not to do it. And whilst theoretically the witnesses should be the ones that start the process, in fact, it was a court-appointed executioner who actually carried out the process on the very rare occasion that it was carried out at all. So again, I think we'll probably come to that in about 15 or 18 years as well.
No, but I like the idea of causing the witnesses to be the executioner, because if in fact they're upset, like you said, maybe the perpetrator would be concerned about strangling. It may be a witness would not want to lie, because in fact he's going to be the one, or she's going to be the one to be the executioner. I think that's a good safeguard against.
Okay, well, I'm going to be devil's advocate, and I'm going to say to you that that is also a recipe for witnesses not coming forward, because just as they may well put them off from lying, if I've seen something and I know that if I start getting involved in this case here and come in as a witness, I'm going to be the one that has to do this horrible act, I might think twice about it. I might turn the other cheek and say, you know what, I'm not getting involved in this. I'm not coming forward. Yes, I did see it, but you know what, count me out. I'm not interested, because I don't want to be doing that.
Yeah, but this is also the case when you're not the executioner. Witnesses in modern day, they don't come if they know that what their testimony is going to be may have them get killed. Or, it works both ways.
No, I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is that if they knew they had to do this horrible act, it may prevent them from coming forward as a witness, because they'll say, I couldn't do it. There's no way I could do it. I couldn't carry it out. And I know that if I come forward, I'm going to have to carry it out. Yes, Howard.
Didn't prevent the girl from doing it.
Well, the corollary to that, Johnny, is a sadist, an evil sadist, might look forward to executing somebody and concoct the evidence.
Yes, I suppose that's the other side of the coin. I never thought of that, Howard.
Well, I'm twisted. What can I do?
But you do need a second witness, though, so that wouldn't work.
Pair of sadists, Michael.
It didn't stop the girl from doing it, Johnny, no, did it?
Well, we don't know. We don't know.
Well,
we haven't heard the case, Johnny. We need to hear the case.
okay.
So let's just summarize where we're up to. Rabbi Yehuda says in this brisa that we have to tell them the method of death penalty, otherwise it doesn't count. Rabbi Meir agrees with Rabbi Yehuda. Now, what we don't see in this brisa is the other opinion. Now, because it says Rabbi Yehuda Omer, that means that there's another opinion. Otherwise, it would just say, and to add shiyaduhu be'eza mito nereg. The fact that it quotes Rabbi Yehuda means that there's somebody else who disagrees with Rabbi Yehuda. Now, who might that be? Well, we're not told. And when we're not told, we can assume that it is that group of people called the Chachamim.
Yes.
Sorry? Have I missed something there? Okay. So because it says Rabbi Yehuda, then there must be another opinion, and the other opinion is the Chachamim. And obviously, because Rabbi Yehuda is the one that says you have to tell him which type of death penalty he's going to get, the Chachamim, the sages, are the ones who say you don't need to specify which death penalty. The warning just has to be you'll get the death penalty if you do this. Now that's consistent, remember, because the sages are the ones that say that we need 23 judges to start with. Now in Abaye's case, which is where they warned the woman Stam without specifying, makes sense that Rabbi Meir says 3 judges because he agrees with Rabbi Yehuda. If you didn't specify, it can't be a capital case, and therefore it's a monetary case, and therefore it's 3 judges. The Chachamim are consistent with themselves, not necessarily the same Chachamim, by the way, but the Chachamim are consistent because the Chachamim in our Brisa here disagree with Rabbi Yehuda and say, no, you don't need to specify. And therefore, in our case of Abaya, where you didn't specify the warning, it could still be a capital case. And therefore, if it could still be a capital case, then you have to start with 23 judges, which is what they said. So this is a very nice, neat, consistent case that Abaye has thought of to bring together everybody's opinion, which all fits very nicely. So we have Rabbi Meir agreeing with Rabbi Yehuda that you have to specify, and in our case that Abaye has brought where they didn't specify, no capital case, therefore 3 judges. The Chachamim agree with the Chachamim. The Chachamim in our Brisa say you don't have to specify, and therefore in Abaye's case where they didn't specify, that means that it can still be a capital case. If there is a chance that it could be a capital case, we start with 23 judges. And that is where we get to in Abaye's case. So that was the 3rd attempt at getting the explanation of what they're disagreeing on and how the thing all fits together. And I think that's a very nice, neat way of doing it. What we're going to do next, and we're going to do this next week, we'll just start it because we've got a couple of minutes, but we're going to go into it in detail, is a 4th case. And this is Rav Papa. Where have you heard of Rav Papa? Yes, Julia.
No, it wasn't an answer to that. You said earlier that you were going to go back to the statement with regard to all the others.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, here we go. I will do that. Usha'ar kol chayvei mitot shabatorah ein mamitin otam ela be'eda ve'edim v'atra'ah. All the other cases, you need 23 judges, Eda, witnesses, Edim, and Hatra'ah, warning, either specifically according to Rabbi Yehuda or non-specifically according to the Chachamim. But there's one case which is different. Now, does anybody know what that case is? That is different, that does not require those 3 things, or at least doesn't require them in such detail.
Sota?
Not Sota, no. Any other offers before I show it you on the screen? I've got it ready, I think.
Idol worship.
Who said that? Idol worship, Leon? Yes, but a specific case of idol worship. You're right, but a specific case of idol worship. Whilst everybody's having a go, Leon, get out your Devarim chapter 13, please, because that's where you'll find it. Any other offers as to what case might be different, might be so serious, let's say, that is different?
Worshipping trees? No, no.
Again, it's to do with idol worship. Yes, David.
The maces that we had last week, encouraging other people to do it.
Yeah, that's right. Not just idol worshipper, but somebody who is called an inciter. He incites other people to idol worship. It's one thing doing something bad yourself, but inciting others to do it is even worse. And the Torah has absolutely no truck with these people. We are in chapter 13 of Sefer Dvarim. Let me show it to you. I prepared it earlier. There it is. And we are verse 7.
If your brother, the son of your mother, or your son or your daughter, or the wife of your bosom, or your friend who is like your own soul, will entice you secretly, saying, let us go and worship the gods of others, that you did not know, you nor your forefathers, from the gods of the people that are all around you, those near to you or those far from you, from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. You shall not accede to him, and not hearken to him. Your eye shall not take pity on him. You shall not be compassionate, nor conceal him. Rather you shall kill him. Your hand shall be the first against him to kill him, and the hand of the entire people afterwards. You shall pelt him with stones, and he shall die. For he sought to make you stray from near Hashem, your God, who takes you out of Egypt from the house of slavery. All Israel shall hear and see, and they shall not again do such an evil thing in your midst.
Okay, now that's pretty powerful stuff, isn't it? I mean, there's no mincing the words there. The Torah is very, very clear. Let's just delve into that a little bit deeper. As David says, this is called in Hebrew a mesit, and it's from this word here, ki yesitacha, and it's to tempt or to entice or to encourage. Ki yesitcha achika, when if somebody, and it goes into all these different people, entices you and says, let's go and worship other gods. And then he says, not interested which God it is, from one end of the earth to the other. And then it says this, verse 9, this is the origin of the halakha that we've just said. Lo tovelo, you shall not listen to him, you shall not desire him, it says here. Lo tishma elav, don't listen to him. Lo tachos eincha alav, do not have any pity on him. Your eye shall not have any pity. There's the word chas. Chas v'shalom, chas v'chalila, means pity. Chas means pity. Do not have any pity on him. Lo tachmol, do not have any mercy on him. V'lo techaseh alav, and do not cover him over, meaning don't shield him. In other words, you have to, all the things that we said in our Gemarah, in our Breita, that we do in order to prevent carrying out the death penalty, do not apply to this fellow. So the idea that you have to have 23 judges and witnesses and a proper warning and a whole business, all of those things do not apply to this mesit to the same degree. They apply to a degree, but they don't apply to the same degree as every other sinner who is chayav mita, who is liable for the death penalty, because this is such a terrible thing to do. This is the worst thing you can possibly do, is to incite others. Now, there are different things there are a few different ways that the inciter, the mesit, is tried for his crime, and they are listed here in my art scroll handily, so I'll tell you what they are. With regard to the judges are required to do their best to acquit the accused, and that's why only one in 70 years was ever convicted and carried out. This requirement does not apply for a mesit. Do not have to go out of their way to acquit him. The witnesses. Now, one of the requirements of the witnesses for a normal capital case is you can't do entrapment. You can't hide witnesses. You're not allowed to have people hidden waiting to witness the act. That's not allowed. But it is allowed if you suspect a mesit. You can lay a trap for him by hiding the witnesses. And the reason for that, of course, is that you need to remove this evil from the people of Israel. So you have to do anything you can to get rid of this chap who is an inciter. And the third thing is the warning. We've already said that in a regular capital case, the warning has to be, you will get the death penalty. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you have to tell them which death penalty. But even according to the Chachamim, you still have to say you'll get the death penalty. That's not the case with the mesit, with the inciter. An inciter may be put to death, even if he did not receive an explicit warning. It's sufficient for those addressing him to say, how can we abandon our Father in heaven and worship sticks and stones? They don't, and the reason for that is because this is such a shocking thing to do, to encourage other people. Bad enough you're doing avodah zarah yourself, but to encourage others and to incite others to avodah zarah is, according to the Torah, just about the worst thing you can possibly do. And therefore, the safeguards that the Torah piles on in a regular capital case to try and avoid carrying out this penalty is not applied to this wicked man. He is left, as it were, to natural justice, and you don't have to give him all those warnings. So if we go back to the Gemarah,
and you don't give him a chance to do teshuvah and repent.
Well, that's why you give him the warning, but you don't have to go over the top with the warning, because he's an inciter, and inciters have to be got rid of if they are inciting. So if you think, Johnny, of the other methods of warning, etc., as an extra layer of being, if you like, kind to the accused, we don't have to be kind to this accused. It's a bit like Lahavdil in the Eichmann trial. Okay, we didn't feel inclined to afford the defendant extra kindnesses that we might afford other defendants, because the crime was so horrendous. So if we go over here back to the Gemarah now, thank you to Julia for reminding me, we can now fill in the gaps. The Brisa says the inciter does not need all those things that we've just said. However, sha'ar kol chayvei mitot, all the other people who are liable to death penalty, ein memitin otam, we do not put them to death, ella, only if there is Eidah, 23 judges, Eidim, witnesses who have not been hidden, and Hatra'ah, warning, which is at least specific enough to say you'll get the death penalty, even if it's not specific enough to say which death penalty you'll get. So that is what where we'll stop today. Just to summarize, Abaye brought a novel case for us to look at, where all these things happened, except the warning was not specific, it was Stam. We've also learned what a sofer Stam does. We've learned about a mesit. We've learned about the inciter. We've learned about the 4 methods of execution, which are stoning, burning, strangulation, and beheading. And we've learned that in 10 years' time, we'll get to know that regular death penalty is strangulation. And in 15 years' time, we'll get to learn the gory details of how it's carried out. And we have seen that we don't have any mercy on an inciter. So we've done quite a lot, really, in our hour. Next week, we will go and have a look at this really interesting thing. And I just want to give you a little taster. Rav Papa brings in a different case. And he says, Hacha, here we're dealing with Isha Chaveira, a woman who is known as a Chaveira. And that is all I'm going to say. You can either do some homework and find out what a Chaveira is, or you'll have to wait till next week until I tell you. So there's a little taster for next week's shiur. Any questions, comments about this week's shiur or any other nonsense that you might think that I've spoken?
Can you explain to me something, Johnny? I was worried about the... Sorry? Yes?
I'll try.
23 judges. Why 23? Especially to listen to this, like the sex case, that's what made me think about it. So they all want to listen to it. And I look back a few pages further back, and it says 23 judges, because you've got to have 10 judges that who attempt to convict the person, and 10 judges who try to not convict the person. How do you get 10? How do you get 10 that are going to try and convict him before they've heard the case?
We don't. No, it doesn't mean that we find 10 whose that's opinion. We have to have 10 who might find one way and 10 who might find the other way. So that's 20. We did all this earlier on. As
yes,
you say,
I know. That's what I'm looking at now.
Yeah. What page is it? What page is it on, John?
10. It says, Rabbi Stansel says, it's right at the top left-hand, the first paragraph, top of page 10.
Yeah. So we have this word.
10 judges that attempt to convict him.
Yeah, it's very apropos that you brought this up, because this Gemarah that you're quoting here. Let me just share the screen again. This is where John is talking about. Where do we derive that we have 23 judges? We got it, if you remember, B'shaftu ha'edah, that same word, edah, that we had today.
Yeah, that's how I knew. That's how I knew what it meant.
We learned that an edah is 10. Where did we learn that from? Can you remember where we learned that?
From the spies.
From the spies, that's right. It said, stand away from this wicked edah. Well, we know that there were 12 spies, 2 good ones, so the wicked ones were 10. So you need to have an edah of people who might find him innocent, an edah who might find him guilty. So there's your 20, right? And so you need to have. Where did we get the other 3 from? We learned that earlier on. If you have a look over here, just further up. The Great Sanhedrin was 71, the lesser of 23. Where we go? Right, 22 a dot. You can't have a bet din shakul, so you've got to have an odd number. So you could have 21, and then you have to have to make it 23. I can't remember where we get the other 2 from. Because I know, because we have Elohim. We have that 2 uses of the words Elohim right at the beginning. So the reason we have 23 is all brought down here in Daf Bet Amud Bet, which we did probably about 16 months ago, I would think. So
just a line in that paragraph that I just brought up, Johnny, says that judges the accused and attempts to convict him. That's what I didn't like.
There must be a congregation that judges the accused. Yeah, what it means is that they will be they may be inclined to find him guilty, and another 10 that might be inclined to find him innocent.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that they make their mind up before they've heard the evidence.
No, that's how I read it. That's how I wanted you to clarify. Okay, thank you.
No, I think that word attempt is probably a bit confusing there.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Did I understand correctly that if someone incites me, that I have the right to execute that person at the time that this occurs? Is that what you said? Or am I misunderstanding?
No, you misunderstood. What I said was that somebody who is accused of inciting will be brought to court. You still have to have 23 judges. You still have to have 2 witnesses, and you still have to have a warning. But you don't have to go over the top with a warning, and you are allowed to hide the witnesses, and the judges don't have to be overly inclined to find him innocent.
I got it.
So no, you can't just go and no, you can't just go and kill him.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay. In that case, I shall wish you a Shavua Tov, what's left of it, and see you next week.